Let's rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the November 3rd, Election Day 2020 Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, is Al Zooming on this meeting?
No, he's not.
Okay, so please note that all council members are present with the exception of Councilor Wolf, who is excused tonight. And I'm going to read this just for the record. I don't see anybody out here, but we will not be taking comments on mask mandates or COVID restrictions at this meeting. That will come up next week. Under announcements, we do have a couple. The Camellan Park Boat Launch will be closing for the season next Monday, November 9th. City Hall and city business offices will be closed Wednesday, November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. Police, fire, and rescue services for life-threatening or in-progress emergencies may be reached by calling 911. The police department will be open for walk-in emergencies. For water department emergencies, call 208-773-3517. The city is seeking the public's input on the City Center Master Plan update. You can find a short presentation and survey on the city's website, postfallsidaho.org. And there is still time to vote. Polling places are open until 8 p.m. And if you weren't sure where to vote, you can find your polling place at kc.gov.us/elections. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are none tonight, sir.
Are there any declarations of conflicts, ex parte contacts, and site visits? Linda?
I'll recuse myself from item number A under unfinished business, please, regarding Post Falls Landing.
Thank you. Will you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the October 20th, 2020 City Council meeting. Item B is payables October 13th through October 26th, 2020. Item C is Tranquil Meadows subdivision plat application. Item D is Montrose 13th edition subdivision plat application. Item E is Shore Pines Lift Station rehabilitation recommendation of award.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I'd move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Tonight we had one public hearing, the North Place vacation, but it has been moved to the November 17th City Council meeting. Unfinished business, returning ordinances and resolutions. We have several. The first is the Add Alternates Survey at the Post Falls Landings.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner, and I'm here seeking your approval for the additional fee associated with the survey for the add alternate items at the Post Falls Landings. And so quickly, on the October 6th council meeting, council approved the three add alternate items for 30% design and construction estimate. And again, those were for the stairway from the Landings Plaza to the future 3rd Avenue road extension, the synthetic turf alternate, and the emergency access road from the plaza to the existing condos. And so the next day, October 7th, city staff was informed by Avista that there was an oversight on their part for estimating that. They omitted the costs associated with additional survey for those add alternates. And so that fee was $1,680.32. And that is what I am requesting your approval for.
Robbie, offhand, can you remind us what the total add alternates were?
So the total was $15,330.18.
So it brings it up to $17,000 total. Okay. Any questions, Robbie? Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the add alternate survey in the Post Falls Landings.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Robbie. Next item up is a resolution on the capital assets management policy.
Move to approve the resolution capital assets management policy.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next resolution, Linda.
Move to approve the resolution purchasing policy.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Borders.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the final resolution?
Move to approve the resolution budget policy.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next, last item up is facility needs assessments. John?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. John Beecham, Public Works Director, here to present a facilities needs assessment contract with Makers Architecture and Urban Design. The overview of this, I'll go through really quickly what the project is, hit the financial points, and then time for questions if you have anything. The generalized purpose of this is a master plan for our facilities that don't have a master plan. So we're talking about things like the Parks Shop, City Hall, the streets and fleet facilities, so things that wouldn't get included in something like the water master plan that has a defined purpose to it, which is to provide water to the citizens. We are trying to look at this holistically so that we can identify if there's any shared resources that can be used together. For example, recreation has space here at City Hall, so do other departments. We don't want to just look at Parks and Recs facilities and omit some of that stuff. So the scope we've put together with Makers has really three key stages. We have an assessment stage where they will come and look at all the facilities that we've identified that are current in existence. They'll also interview city staff and look at future needs, and we'll use the city's population projections to see what that is for the coming years as well. So there's a growth component to the projections that will be built into that. From there, we will look at alternatives. And that's really, okay, so you need something different here. What 4 different ways can we accomplish that? What are those costs? Out of that, there'll be a staff workshop, and I'll get to city council interaction in a second, but also city council interaction. Once we select alternatives, we'll move from there into a recommendations phase. That's where we look at the financing of it. How do we pay for it? On what time frame? Does anything need to change from a policy perspective from there? Those recommendations get wrapped up into a final report, and that would, again, come to you guys, which brings me to my next slide. City council input. First thing we would have, we've scoped a remote briefing from our consultant on what they found in the assessment. They're not a local firm, they're out of Seattle, and we're trying to save costs for bringing them in person when necessary, but also have them available for your questions when you would like to ask things of them. There'll be an in-person briefing as to the alternatives and the recommendations for which get moved forward, as well as an in-person briefing on the draft recommendations for how to implement the findings of the study. With all that wrapped up, city staff will present the final report to you for adoption. Hopefully at that point you've seen all the material in it. It's just packaged in a way that is something that's approvable. On the financial side of things, we've broken this out based on the number of existing facilities for the general fund group and for the water and wastewater facilities that are being looked at. So I just counted up the number of facilities in the study and said, based on how many facilities you have versus the total, this is your percentage. I will note that the wastewater is split 50-50 between collections and treatment, which is really an internal bookkeeping thing. Also requesting a contingency for this project, and it's about $7,750. That's 5% of the project. That would be if something comes up that we didn't scope Makers for that we think makes sense to include in the study. With that, we recognize that this is not a small contract to bring before you. Our group that was working on this looked at a lot of different ways that we could reduce the cost of the project. We could review fewer facilities. The downside to that is we lose the holistic approach to it. So anything we cut out basically becomes a future study, which isn't necessarily a great result. Similarly, we could focus on a few key recommendations for the next 1 or 2 projects that might need done. That also misses the big picture because we're going to be coming back asking to study, okay, the next 3 through 6 in future years. The one thing that I think is on the table in terms of a cost reduction is to simplify the final deliverable. And this is something the consultant suggested. We can omit from the final report how we got to the recommendations and only really thoroughly document in that report what those recommendations are. That's really the implementation phase. That's what staff are going to be using to move forward. So it is the most important part to keep in there. The downside is if somebody new picks up that document, they can't see how you got there. And for new city staff, we'd have to go back and review all the meeting minutes and that sort of thing. We think it's worth the $13,000 to include that in the scope. That's why it's presented as it is to you. If that is the difference between an approval and not an approval, we could definitely support that simplified final deliverable. So with that, are there any questions?
John, I have a question for you.
Certainly.
So it's always good to do planning, long-term planning. You're asking us to approve $170,000. What's that going to save us down the road?
It's hard to put a number on a specific savings. I was talking to Greg McLean with the police department, who's on our committee who's putting this together. And the value of any structure the city builds is likely to be more than the value of this study. So they just built a storage facility at the police department a few years ago. His recollection was that was over $200,000 to build. So if you factor in the planning cost to build the right thing at the right time versus the construction costs, which are $200,000 for a storage facility is about as small as we get, really. I think this is likely to save us money in the long term. Go on another tangent, one thing we want to look at is what facilities can be shared. So if Parks updates their shop, Fleet updates their shop, Water updates their shop, but really what we needed to do was build a single shop, I think there's potential there for a lot of savings, and we won't necessarily know that until we put all the needs down on a piece of paper and compare them with available space.
Okay. Steve?
Just a question, does the contract include anything, and maybe I missed it in there, for designs?
It does not.
So basically we'll get the study, but we'll still have to hire an architect, a design, build the building, so.
That is absolutely correct.
And second question, on the annexation fees, 59%, so is that split evenly then between the departments that receive annexation fees, or was that just?
I'm maybe not.
That's a fund, so we have annexation fees allow us to do growth studies, and that's eligible to use towards growth studies, so that is an actual
Okay.
fund that we have.
So that just was its own separate fund and
Yes.
didn't come out of any department?
No.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? So you would need a motion, I would assume.
Yes,
Correct.
please.
Would you care to make a motion?
I would move to approve the facilities needs assessment.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Anthony?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Under new business, we have none. Administrative staff reports.
We have none tonight, sir.
Next item would be citizens' issues, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. Seeing none. Mayor and council comments. I have none other than you are going to get out of here in time to vote tonight, Joe?
Yes.
So please, if you haven't voted, do vote. Read in the paper that this is expected to be the largest voter turnout in Kootenai County history, which is good. Hopefully everybody retains sanity and whatever happens, happens, and we move forward. So it'll be nice to see if that happens. Council comments. Linda.
I would just like to take a minute and thank the city staff, the Post Falls Chamber, the Historical Society, especially the PD, of course, because they won the contest. But up on the screen is the city's, like I said, the city staff and several others who dressed up in costumes and had a drive-through Halloween candy giveaway, and we literally got hundreds and hundreds of kids dressed up in their costumes, driving through this maze at City Hall last Friday. And they were so happy. It was just so touching to see everyone work so hard, and I just would personally like to thank everyone who worked on that, and it was a fun time, and I really feel like it shows the spirit of Post Falls, so thank you very much to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know Shelley sent me a email. I was out of town and told me how long the line was, so I knew it was a success. So,
Yeah.
any other comments? We do not need an executive session tonight,
We do not, sir.
so we do have a special meeting Monday at 10
10
a.m.
a.m.
And just for the record, that will be to discuss the possibility of a mask mandate that will not be open for public comment. My understanding is we will have a short presentation from Kootenai
Kootenai
Health,
Health, yes.
but it is not a public hearing, so there will be no public comment. We've all received many emails, letters, phone calls, et cetera. So we will discuss that Monday, 10 o'clock.
Monday, 10 o'clock. And to let the public know, if you go out to the public comment form on our website, all of those emails are shared with our mayor and council. We've gotten a few comments about, is that shared with mayor and council? Yes, daily we share those comments with mayor and council.
I even got an email at my work email about this, and I haven't figured out how that happened, but I did.
Hunted you down.
Yeah, anyway.
We're definitely seeing them though, so keep them coming if you have something to say.
Yeah. So, no executive. The next motion is,
Adjourn?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.